choose their name. I do know some people that have changed names tremendously, like the people that will go from one name to another within just 2 or 3 weeks. I do know people, there are some people, for example, a really good friend of mine, his birth name started with a J. So he was trying to stay close to it, so like when he came out to his parents and stuff, it wouldn't be like as hard for them to do the name change. So he chose something with a J, and then after a few months of trying out that name and everything, he realized that that name didn't really fit him. It wasn't really who he was. So he chose a name that he had liked for a really long time, and that's who he goes by now. That's who he is changing his name to, and all that stuff. I know people that ever since they were younger, they'll have the other gender names that they like completely fell in love with when they were younger, or they've liked for years now, and when they find themselves, they'll come out as a person with that name, and that'll be the name that they stick with. I do know some that still go by their birth name because they have not chosen a name yet. They can't find a name that fits them. So normally, like the people that I do know would rather you just not call them by a name because they're not all that comfortable with their birth name. But in terms, they'll go by that name. They would rather you just steer away from a name as much as possible until they find one that they're comfortable with. I've seen a lot of this lately, and it really bothers me. There are a lot of people out there that aren't a part of the trans community that think it's okay to ask a trans guy what his birth name was. The way I see that is if they don't want you to know their birth name, they're not going to tell you. And if it's something that you want to know, then you just have to wait until they'll tell you. Or you just have to deal with not knowing it at all. Because in just about everyone's perspective, it's wrong, it's disrespectful, it's unmoral, technically, to ask someone what their birth name is if that's not something that they go by and it's not something that makes them comfortable. Now there are some trans men out there that obviously will give out their birth name to anyone who asks or anyone who they think needs to know. But if you didn't know them before they found themselves and they don't want to tell you their birth name, please, oh my goodness, don't pressure them into it. I know a lot of trans men that will ask other trans men what their birth name is. If you're up for telling people your birth name, go right ahead. It's your business. But that's more of if you still go by it and you're comfortable by going by it. That's one of those things where you have to wait until that person decides if they're going to tell you or not. Like I said, I didn't really know all that much about this topic. I knew, like, pretty much the basics. Basic stuff, just, I don't know. Like I said, the guys will probably have a lot more to say than I will because they know what it's like to go through a name change and choosing a name and why they chose a name and all that stuff. So, I guess I'll see you guys next week.